after this, I told him I played saxophone. So for 10 days, he sat around the room, in his hotel room. He said for his kids, and he let me play his horn. I've been playing for like about 3 or 4 months, and he let me practice on his horn. He promised to send me an alto, but he never did. And that was a long story that I go through. But the point is that he showed me about embouchure. He told me about practicing in your head, and he said, there's the secret to the embouchure is this muscle right here.
Yeah.
Push it out and put your teeth here and be very relaxed, but just the corner of your mouth. I know this. This is happening. Normal. Then he explained to me the same thing could be done genitally, but he didn't demonstrate.
Yeah, well, I think loose is good. When I see people tucking, I don't think that that's good. I thought Dexter and those guys. I always point to the way that they look. You know, they playing on the red generally, and you know, all those guys. Most of them are playing on the red. Hardly anybody tucking. Maybe. I think if you're playing a real, maybe a real soft setup, maybe you would tuck. I don't know. Something that you need to build resistance somehow. But if you have a little bit of a harder setup, then you want to be looser. But that's...
So you didn't play saxophone till you were about 20, right? You took it up rather late.
Yeah, I discovered I could play one. I just started playing my buddy's saxophone, and I discovered I could play one and get a sound, and it sound just fine. And I went, wow. So I finally got a saxophone. My first saxophone was from some guy. His name was Speedball, and he had this, and somebody says, yes, Speedball's got a saxophone. So I went up into the Central District to Speedball's place, and there was this guy, and he only had no furniture in the joint. And he had an album right by the door. And it was Bobby Blue Bland, and it was Two Steps from the Blues. I'll never forget it. I go in there and I go, whoa. So and he's got this saxophone. It was a tenor, and it was a Reynolds Supertone. And actually, it was pretty good. I took it to a guy who rebuilt it, and I played that. And then my dad's friend, way back, my dad went on a band to New York when he was in high school, and his buddy who went with him on that trip in high school to New York was still his friend. And by this time, he was a junkie, but he had a regular job too, most of the time. And he had a cigar box full of mouthpieces. They were like, these $1,000 auto links and stuff, and so he gave me this whole box of auto link mouthpieces, and I got one that played, and the next thing I got my Reynolds Supertone, and I'm playing in rhythm and blues bands, because I always loved, the three sounds with Stanley Turrentine and that whole kind of thing, and I learned how to get that kind of dance band, blues kind of thing, going. I was still working on, I was like doing giant steps on the tenor all the time, because when I lived in New York, I transcribed giant steps on trumpet. And that took a little bit of doing, especially on a record player. And I turned a few heads with that, because I've taken lessons from Carmine Caruso. And, I was playing, But Not For Me, the Train Changes, and it's in the key of F, and I'm playing high on the trumpet and going through that stuff, and people would look over at me and go, what the hell's going on over here? There's a little party going on over here, only I was like the guy that knew two songs, you know, Happy Birthday and Giant Steps, you know. I mean, I did, but you know, it didn't really translate. It took so long for me to really get deeper into, you know, harmony and standard tunes. That took a little more doing. And there was a lot of things that you know I did. That was not my music. I liked, you know, Horace Silver and things like that coming up. You know what I mean?
Like for instance, when you started to play, you know, and you were playing some Horace Silver and you played a couple of standards, you now Marvin, did you know harmony or were you playing pretty much
No,
by ear yourself?
no, no. And I think Jay probably didn't get really deep into harmony until he started working over in Japan. Do you think that's right, Jay?
No. I got into it, you know, just trying to figure out more what was going on. I had a couple of jobs and guys would give me a chart, you know, and I'd look at it and I go, oh, what is going on with that? Is that going to help, right? Like 13ths with all this, you know, all every kind of thing, and I'd look at it and I go, geez, I don't really understand that as much. I by ear, if you gave me enough time, I was fine with it all. But my coming up, that wasn't my first love of just standards and stuff as much as I had my heroes and everything like that. But the things that I really enjoyed were all the, you know, I could play, of course, rhythm changes and things like that. But the things I first really liked were, you know, those kinds of tunes like the Horace Silver tunes like Nika's Dream and things that would, you know, ba 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 da ba da ba 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 da whatever that, you know, those kinds of tunes were kind of where my brain was at. So now I went, oh yeah, that's like hard bop, and that kind of is, it's related to Latin and blues and, you know, all those kinds of things. So now I love standards.
Well, I know, and you know, we were playing Indian Summer together over the phone the other day.
Oh yeah, I love that too. I mean,
well, what I'm curious about though is, you know, see, I had a similar experience. The first couple of years that I played, Ira Sullivan was my hero, and still is. But Ira didn't know technically anything about harmony. He was like Chet and Stan and Zoot, one of those guys that really didn't have those kind of that kind of knowledge, but he did it by ear. So I said, I'm going to be like that, and I'm going to do that by ear, and then I was doing okay with it, and I was doing the same thing. I was taking some of the Horace Silver stuff and standards, and I could actually sort of make the changes, you know, and but I don't think I could really, you know, and I knew a lot of Charlie Parker. I'd taken a lot of Bird Brace,
yeah, right.
you know, but but then Phil Woods heard me when I was 15, and he gave me the scholarship to this jazz camp that he had. He did the music in. I mean, it was a performing arts camp, and Phil was the music department. And he heard me at this intercollegiate jazz festival where this high school all-star band I was in played, and Phil said, "Okay, you got to come to New Hope, Pennsylvania." And we had no money. I was very poor. He said, "We'll give you a scholarship." And then he showed me that, you know, basically 5/7 goes to 1, basic harmony, you know, 2/5/1.
Right.
And he said, "Believe me, you should learn this because, you know, it will help you play even better." So Phil was an idol of mine too. And since he said to do that, you know, I started to do it. And I got my piano. I'm no piano player, but as somebody said, I could play cocktail piano in a bowling alley. But I had enough learning about chords that started me. And so then I asked everybody about changes. And that was a lifelong, I wouldn't say obsession, maybe, that I have with changes and reharmonizing and all
Right.
that. But I had a mentor that way that Phil kind of let me. But then I always tried to play at the same time. I would always try to be like a guy who didn't know that stuff.
Right.
So when I was playing with people that play like that, I would really learn from them, because I'd say,
Right.
I hear the way Chet hears and the way Ira hears. Like, I gotta feel, how do they do that? What do you? So you would just, you're talking about pretty complex tunes. Even if you're talking Horace Silver, Nika's Dream is no walk in the park.
Yes, no, they have all, I could hear the total centers, and I could immediately know if that ain't right, and I would feel my way through it, but and that was okay. There were some songs that were like, I remember like this guy going, yeah, let's play, Duke Ellington's Sound of Love or something. I'm playing through that I'm going, oh, this is ouch, a little bit. A couple of places were, surprising. I said, what is that? And just trying to get into it. So, but yeah, at Berklee, had I hung with that, because they gave me after Berklee, I had no problem playing. Just Friends or All the Things You Are or something like that. I knew that kind of thing, but.
So you understood that basically that there's a tonic, and then there's temporary tonics that the tune travels to. You understood that kind of harmony? Like, I'm just curious, like how you thought about that.
Well, a lot of times I would go through, I would have the tonal centers, and it wasn't until later that I got the roots of what they were. I could play songs before I really got into, like, okay, I see the bass is playing this and blah, blah, blah. This is, well, that's probably the name of the chord if he's playing that note, and oh shit, yeah, I get it, but it took a little bit of time. I loved meeting Ira, because my friend, one of my dad's friends, Freddie Greenwell, was a really great tenor player who played all the time in New York at the Flower District, that session that used to be there.
Up in the loft.
It was a loft session where
Eugene Smith's loft.
Yes, and Freddie lived there. Well, he was my dad's buddy, and Freddie was in those days a junkie, and he was, but Freddie, and Freddie also played with Howard O'Brien, but Freddie, I remember him showing me songs, and I'd go, "What are the changes, Freddie?" And he'd go start to write it, and then he'd go, "I don't know." He showed me Arrogant. He showed me Sister Sadie and some of those, and I realized. Huh?
What was his last name again?
Greenwell, Freddie Greenwell. He's featured in Bill Crow's first book, because Freddie and a guy named Buzzy Britchford had a gig up in the Catskills, and they got Bill Crow. They said, "Yeah, Bill, bring your valve trombone, come on up, play with us." And so he went up there, and Buzzy was a real operator, and he went down to the music store and got a bass and said, "Oh, Bill, when you're not playing the valve trombone, hey, could you do this?" And Buzzy had the idea, got on the bass, and boom, 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 and that's how he got his start. He said, yeah, Bill would play, and Freddie would go, "Hey, Bill, you sound like a real bass player tonight." And then after that, he after a whole summer of that, he he got the notes, and he'd already played a variety of instruments, and he had an ear, and he used to play. He had a session over at the University of Washington. That's where my dad went to school too. But back on how did I get on Freddie? But anyway, Freddie was a real influence.
You said he tried to.
Yeah, Freddie was a guy who knew all the songs, all the standards, and he played with Lester Lannon and different people like that, and big bands and small groups, and he was friends with Al and Zoot and Stan and all the people. He was a very, very great, underrated, and just like I learned to hear his sound. That was a real, I'll never forget when he came to Seattle. My dad had been talking about Freddie, and we used to have a club in Seattle called the Penthouse, and Harold Land was playing there with Hampton Hawes, and Hampton Hawes had just gotten out of prison. Kennedy pardoned him.
He was the last pardon of President Kennedy.
And so after hours session, they got an after hours session together at this place, and I'm just 14 or 15 or something. My dad, come on, and I was like really concerned because I thought, oh gee, I wonder if Harold Land's going to come. I wonder if my dad's friend, is he going to be able to hang with all these guys? And I was like I fell asleep, woke up, and they were playing. I fell asleep, and then I woke up, and they were playing.
Freddie Greenwald played with
Freddie Greenwald was playing, and he was playing with Hampton Hawes, who they were pals from Central Avenue era, because Freddie used to play with Dexter down there all the time. And
is that the only time you got to hear Hampton, or did you get to know Hampton Hawes at all?
I didn't get to know him, but I heard him that time, and I was amazed how this thing sounded, because all of a sudden I got the sound of it because it was swinging so hard. It wasn't like they were playing, fast or this and that thing. I just went, oh, wow, and it didn't matter what they played. Freddie had a real sunny thing going. He started off playing "Is It True What They Say About Dixie," just with his tongue in his cheek and going to town, and they sounded so brilliant to my young ears. I just loved that, and so that one of those early impressions, and I just the other guy that helped me early on in Seattle was Randy Brecker, if you can believe that.
Oh, really?
He came out here in the summer, I think, of '66, and he had a girlfriend out here, and he was going to school, Indiana or something. He could already play. He was about, he's what, 4 years older than me, something like that. And
yeah, right, older than you. That's right, because he's older than me.
A little bit older, and at that time he sounded so much like Clifford or like some of the guys, Carmel Jones and people like that. And so,
yeah, Freddie.
And I would see him at the jam session all the time, and he was real friendly and nice, and it was nice to be around him that summer. And
what did he show you? What did he?
Well, he didn't. It was just by example mainly, but he just was encouraging. I mean, I had figured out the diminished scale and how to play him on dominant chords and this and that and the other thing. And he goes, yeah, that's that diminished thing. Yes, it's like he'd already been down the trail, and he's going, yeah, keep going, kid. That's good. I did go to his place in New York, but by that time I was already heading out into outer space. But I went over to his place, and I was really played his horn. He had this electronic gear, and I was rattling off my Coltrane on the trumpet, whatever. And he was real friendly. He goes, "Yeah, oh wow!" And he took me out to dinner, and I was so high at the dinner that this like that's not a way to win friends and influence people. It just all of a sudden, you know, he could see. Well, I can't send him into a gig. There's no way. I'm not going to recommend this guy. You know,
that happens with that.
Yeah, so basically,
I must say, is the most tolerant and beautiful cat that way. You know, he just
oh, it's beautiful.
he's very non-judgmental. The thing I've noticed about Randy, you know, through the years, he really is not a. Maybe he can't use it, or he can't help you, or he can't do this, but he's never gonna say anything, or you know, he'll feel sorry for somebody.
I had him play a bunch of trumpet features. I had this big band for a long time, and my dad's one of the best chart negotiators in the universe for trading big band arrangements. And so we had this big band full of all these trumpet features. And by this time I'd said, I don't want to, you know, play in the trumpets. I was playing lead alto and really digging it. And Randy came in, and I've hauled out all the trumpet features, and it was really fun. Just in case anybody wanted to figure out how he sounded live, and he sounded, you know, really, really great. So that was a real, you know, fun thing, and. But you know, I went back home after that whole experience, and it took a while to get you know, on my feet again. I lived in the Bay Area for a while, and I had a good time. You might know Chuck Scher, the guy that has the music company and printing.
Well, he's published my last my book.
Okay, well, Chuck and I lived together in Marin County. Chuck is like my older brother. Chuck is like, he just took care of me.
Oh, he's a beautiful guy, wonderful.
Well, we were both poor, but he had his hand on the bucket and was headed towards the well, so he had it down. He was already pretty motivated, right? And so I could tell he was late coming to standards and things like that. And he was, so I remember when this thing got started, really, because we had this friend, Bob Bauer, this kid just got out of, he could transcribe anything so quickly and perfectly write it out. And Chuck, I could see his brain working, operating, you know, and the next thing, you know, it was not surprising that he was successful, but Chuck was real. He had all kinds of, you know, things going on, and so that was really.
I'm trying to, let me see if I can find my book that Chuck.
Where is it? Where is that darn thing?
So I can show some people. Give me a
Chuck, he sends me those books when they come out. He gave me the Mike Brecker book.
Yeah,
all that stuff.
I mentioned in that because Mike, in some of his notes, wrote certain patterns, and then he put next to the mover.
Yes, I know. Yeah, that's right. I skip around in that book. I'll look at something and.
For instance, this is the bass clef version.
Oh yeah.
And that's the second edition. There's also a treble clef, which is
okay.
Also there. So Chuck, he should send you that.
Well, I'll buy it. So anyway, but that helped me. So it kept me going in jazz, you know, being down there. I had a really good time in the Bay Area, and then came back up here and got involved in pretty much work.
What year was that? You were down in the Bay Area? What was?
That was in the early 70s, and up until maybe 77 or 78. I'm not sure. What was it? Do you remember?
was right before Parnell, so maybe 78 would be about right.
Had Joe Henderson moved there?
Yes, I used to see Joe play at the community college at the noon hour. I'd go down there and he had his like Indian band that he used to wear, headband, and he was playing with his San Francisco band. And I used to play with Manny, not Rocky Boyd, but Manny Boyd. Did you know Manny Boyd?
That's really familiar.
He played with Bobby Hutcherson on tenor, but he also ended up playing lead alto with Basie for a long time.
No.
Yeah, but I remember. So that was a good time down there for me for a few years, and then I got back to Seattle and started, on my road to recovery. When I got into that, then I said, well, I got to get a band and start working. So I did that. I started getting jobs and did a little tour like with Eddie Moore and those guys. Eddie Henderson was supposed to do the tour, but he couldn't make it. So they got... Yeah, so I got on the tour, and we played at Yoshi's and in different places, and it was pretty happening. And so I've just been bouncing around, but kind of on the underbelly. I mean, I've given up. I'm way happier and less ambitious today.
That might be a good idea, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going, okay, when I meet people like this summer, I'll see Smolian again, and we always have fun, because he's such a character. He can tell a story, and we know a lot of tunes that we can play together.
Gary was my very first student in New York.
Yes, that's what you said. I mean, now he's just got all, he loves those contrafacts and stuff. Yeah. So we play different kinds of things. So like last time we played Haylock, the contrafact on by Lockjaw Davis on Body and Soul.
Oh, I don't know that one.
He knows all, I mean, anything that it comes up. The contrafacts are fun, and I like the, stuff like Salute the Bandbox and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure. I remember.
I mean, those are really, really fun to play, and the Horace Silver ones, Prince Albert.
Sal didn't write a lot, but he had one line that Sal Nistico wrote a beautiful contrafact on, I Remember You. And he would play that all the time.
Who?
Sal Nistico.
Oh, really?
Contrafact based on I Remember You. That's a lovely line. And that's the only thing I could ever remember him, the only sort of original that I ever heard him play.
Wow.
He wasn't really a composer, but he wrote that one line on I Remember You, and it was beautiful.
I gotta find that. I loved Sal. He took me one time to his apartment and made spaghetti dinner for me. It was like, wow. It was so great. He says, "Yeah, this is just the way that's Sicily."
He's Sicilian, or the one eyebrow.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, his eyes sometimes they let little red flecks in them, and just like I said, Jesus, this guy, you wouldn't want to have him angry at you, and you just scary.
That was the funny thing about Sal. He looked like, he's central casting had him as the guy that will break your knees.
Right.
And he was such a gentle, sweet.
Oh, just a sweetheart. I know.
He didn't look at all. I mean, the last thing he would be, but he did look, and in a certain way too. I thought about that, Jay, and Marvin, that it's like typecasting, and even musically. Because he had that Woody Herman big band experience, it's almost like, like if you play a heavy in the movie, then you can never be the lover.
Right.
And Sal always reminded me of that musically, that because he had this, tough big band tenor thing, which he did so well, people didn't really realize the amazing sensitivity that Sal could play with. Chet recognized it, but the fact that he could play, Koditz recognized it too, that he could play like a beautiful tender ballad, and that he could, he wasn't trying to kill it all the time.
Oh yeah.
He could play lyrically, and he was one of the most lyrical cats I know. In fact, it reminds me of, you told me a story, and we were talking the other day about poppy plants.
Oh God, yeah.
Flowers.
Yeah.
You had a Zoot Sims story, as I recall. We were talking about Zoot.
Right.
There's another beautiful, just a gentle, wonderful human being who was just, I was fortunate to know him too. And you told me you had a lovely experience kind of when he played Parnell's, right? And
I gave him a ride 3 or 4 times, and then I sat in with him, and he was very, very friendly, and he told me all kinds of stories, and we got along just fine. He was a beautiful cat. But I gave him my tea from the poppies that I had, and
tell me about that.
Last night of the gig, he didn't have a suit on that night. He was going, Jesus, he couldn't sleep. He was scratching all night long, and
So you had the poppy tea.
I had the poppy tea. I was trying to tell everybody, it's organic, it's fine. It's, this is good. But it was like, totally, it didn't matter. It doesn't really matter what your delivery system is. I was totally hung up. And, but at that time, I thought the tea was great, and he had a whole bunch of these poppies, some guy gave me.
You had the poppies. You got the poppies from someone?
I had a whole big garbage sack full of them, just, and I would take, 100 of them and make a tea. And
well, you'll love this story. Our spiritual brother, Sal was always funny. He never exposed me to those things because he never thought I would, even when I was kind of into it, he didn't know that. And so I was always away from that. But he told me a story that, when Sal was living toward the end of his life, he was living in Bern in Switzerland, and he was on tour in Italy. And it was a certain time of year that Sal noticed these plants in the windows of the flower shops. And, being somewhat of an amateur botanist, Sal said, I don't know how much of a botanist he was, but he seemed to think that he found out that these plants were a kind of poppy that was only available in this particular season. They were in season. And so all the flower shops seemed to have them. So Sal told me the story. It was great. He said, so he realized he bought a few, and he made a tea from them.
Right.
And, Sal had quite a habit, and he realized the tea really saved him a lot of trouble. He didn't have to cop, he didn't have to do anything. He would take care of his maintenance of his habit, and he was good. So then he got the idea. He said, well, he started to buy them. He was touring Italy, and in every town, they had these flowers. They were in season. He would find the florists in every town.
Right.
He spoke some Italian. Of course, he said, c'è questo tipo di fiori, whatever it was, what type of flower. And they say, oh, yeah, we have some. They say, quanto vuoi? How many do you want? He say, quanto hai? How many do you have?
Yeah.
And so he got an extra suitcase to bring them.
I can believe it, yeah. Works good. I
Yeah,
remember Jake Hanna talking about Sal. Jake Hanna, I got to work with Jake Hanna
Jake, for you, those of you who
quite
don't
a
know,
bit.
is a wonderful drummer. Played with Woody Herman.
He sounded great.
And he was one of the great big band drummers of all time. And yeah, so go ahead with Jake Hanna. Just in case.
Well, Jake Hanna was fantastic. I remember he was, talking about Sal. He goes, "Oh yes, Sal, perfect time." It was so easy for him to play with Sal, and you could kind of see it at times. Like I think Sal had a way of physically cutting it way down in half. You could see him go into that relaxation thing.
Yeah, he was all
way
about
upstairs.
long meter.
He'd go, just like it would start like, okay, and then he'd be off into it. And I could see that for him, that he was able to do that. And his articulation was phenomenal. And
Phenomenal, yeah.
it was, and I remember like, Mr. Natural or something. He was like, I said, Sal, it's because I was playing with these older tenor players, and I was going, hey, how do I do this? And the tenor player goes, well, use your bis key. And I go, what? I didn't even know a bis key. So I was talking to Sal, and I go, yeah, Sal, I think I got it going now, because I got, the bis key, and this and that and the other thing. I'll be able to, do all this and that and the other thing. And Sal goes, I never do use that bis key. It was kind of great, but yeah, I know he didn't. In a way, Sal didn't. He didn't think. He was very humble. Sal was very humble. He didn't think he was like, some kind of jazz god, like people would look up to Sal so much. But he was pretty darn down to earth. He liked who he liked, Coltrane and Sonny and just different people.
And Gene Ammons. He liked Gene Ammons a lot.
Oh God, who doesn't? Who doesn't?
All right, who doesn't? But I think Sal actually had a kind of inferiority complex in a way, strangely.
Amen. I was like his coach for a second.
Yeah, he was humble to the point of, where you shouldn't be that humble. And he played with so much confidence. Once he put the horn in his mouth, you never would think that this guy was so self-effacing. But
I know.
Here, a funny story about Sal. This is great. You'll enjoy this, I think. Sal had just gotten back from Europe, and I was doing every Sunday and Monday at Sweet Basil, which I did for a couple of years with my quintet. And this was with Albert Daly and Tom Harrell and various, I think, different bass players, drummers. But the thing is that Tom said that he had run into Sal that afternoon or the day before, and he had invited Sal to come over. He said, I told Sal we're down at Basil, and I was like, Sal and I had an arrangement with each other because I had once saved him. He had a terrible rhythm section. I told you the story, but I didn't tell the world. He had a terrible rhythm section on a gig in Boston, and I happened to be in town, and I was visiting my dad, and I sat in with him. And even the second night, I brought a tenor player friend of mine, because Sal was so non-competitive. I knew he'd like this cat, Joe Karcher, and they played together. And he had actually, he had to show the organ player Nika's Dream because it was so wrong. And finally, Sal said, I was so grateful, man. You really saved me. He said, hearing you, it gave me something to listen to because I couldn't listen to these rhythms. This rhythm section was terrible. Thank you. He said, anytime I've got a gig and I'm the leader, you don't even have to ask. Get your horn out and come on up. And I said, and the same applies to you. Don't ever ask me. Just my bandstand is yours. So we had this arrangement with each other, whatever you want to call it. So Tom said, Sal said, I told Sal we're over here at Basil. I said, yeah, we told him to come in, right? He said, oh, yeah, I did. He said, he's going to come in. So later that night or the next night, whatever it was, Sal came in, and I had my alto and my soprano, and I'd forgotten my soprano stand. I had a stand, but I knew I'd left something at home, and I was running out to a gig, and I didn't bring it. So I had this stand, the soprano on the floor. And Sal came up and sat in, and he played beautifully. And he used to do this little kick with his leg sometimes when he finished playing. Remember, he'd get very loose. He looked like he was like he really was graceful when he played. Like he said, he had this very loose thing and this and that. And he finishes his solo, and he turns around, and he goes this little kick with his leg, and it kicks my soprano, which goes rolling all the way back to the wall under the piano, and it's I pick it up and it's not playable. And Sal was like, "Oh man, oh I'm so sorry, man." He would talk like that fast guy with the upstate New York accent. "Oh man, I didn't mean to do it. Oh man, how could I be? I'm so dumb. I'm just so damn dumb. How could I do that? How could I not see it? I'm blind and dumb. You know what I mean?" And I'm like, "No, man, it's an accident. Don't worry about it." He says, "Well, I got to give you some bread for it and this and that." I said, "You know what? Don't worry. I'll take it to Saul Fromkin. He knows you. He knows me. He'll fix it up. It won't cost much. I'm working. You're just back in the country. Don't worry about it. I got it." So I get the horn fixed, and I said, I told Saul what happened, and he was very nice about it. I don't think he even charged me. He said, "Oh, that shit happens, and how's Sal doing?" And love Sal too. So next week, I said, "I'm bringing my stand." Okay, it was my fault too. I said, "Sal, I had it on the floor, this and that, so it's not your fault." But the next week, I know he's going to come back. It's a good band, and I'm about to go to Florida that week. The next day, I'm going to I got a gig. I'm going down to play with Ira. So I'm playing "Come Fly With Me." So I decided to play "Come Fly With Me." Let's fly away. And Sal, picks right up on it, and goes from C to A flat on the bridge. Everything's cool, and then he finishes his solo, plays a beautiful solo, turns around, and kicks over my stand.
Oh no! Oh God!
And Sal is like, oh man, I'm so sorry. Oh man, I'm so sorry. And he said, now I got to give you some bread for it. I got to do something. I said, "Sal, you're just back in town. You were in Europe. It's not your fault. Forget about it, and save your money for your ballet classes."
Yeah, I went to Saul Fromkin's one time, and this is a funny story. It's like the watching Red and Ira together. They were so different. They were so different. And so I went to Wolf Trap Park with Red and Ira, and Jeff Hirschfield and Gary Dial and
Jay Anderson.
yes, and we're all in the same car. I'm not sure about Jay.
Where is Wolf Trap? I've heard about it for years. Upstate New York.
Wolf Trap Park is in Washington D.C.
Oh, Washington D.C. Yeah.
So we went there and did this thing. I played with them one time with that band, and we came back to New York, drove back, and we got in early in the morning, and it was funny because, number one, seeing like how uptight in a way Red could be, and then how relaxed Ira was. Just like Ira would be in the gas station trying every pair of sunglasses on, and whatever, and just so relaxed, right? So we get back to New York, and Ira's going to catch a bus or something to the airport, and then go back to Florida, and he gets out of the car and he goes, "Oh, Red, take my tenor to Saul Fromkin's, and have him go through it. It's something's not working right." And off he goes. And Red is just astounded. He said, he lives in there and he goes, what the fuck? Am I his goddamn valet? He says, and then he goes, Dial, you take the saxophone to Saul Fromkins. So I was with Gary Dial when we went to Saul Fromkins, and I can't remember who was there, George Coleman or somebody, somebody.
Junior Cook practically lived there.
Some heavyweight was there, and I just went,
give me a drink.
Oh my God, this has got to be the place, right? This really muscular, beefy cat, working on horns, and I just went, wow.
To pay. All from
yeah. But it was funny. He goes, Dial, you take it. you take the tenor. No, I'm, because Red and Ira, the funny one, before I forget, changing subjects, did you know Willie Thomas?
I know who he was. No, I didn't know him, but
Okay, he has some very funny, way back in Chicago stories of Ira and stuff. Way back before Ira cleaned up or anything like that. It was really funny stuff. But Willie Thomas was a character and could really play. He played with that band, the MJ.
Player, right? I heard him on something.
No, he's a trumpet player, he played with the great guy from light-skinned black guy who played.
Strozier?
Yes. He played with Frank. Yes, he played with Frank Strozier all the time. And
MJT +3.
Yes. So
now I remember. Yeah, he was in that band.
We got to be good friends, Willie Thomas, and he was one of the funkiest guys. And he died a few years ago, but he was one of the funkiest old guys you'd ever meet. Like Willie, and one time he was doing a thing with Smulyan. Smulyan had Willie as a guest, giving some kind of thing that was incomprehensible to me about triad pairs or whatever, no, there was, what was it? Pentatonic pairs, he called it. Da 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 da. Yeah, everything was that, and I went, what? But he sounded great, and Willie's thing was like, yeah, I'm stacking. And the first time I met Willie, he was like playing all this stuff, and I looked over at him, because he's like 20 years older than me anyway, and I look over at him, and he goes, yeah, I bet you'd like to know what I'm doing, right? And I said, yeah. He goes, well, I'm stacking. And I said, what do you mean? He says, I'm stacking half the minutes. And he's like, all kinds of, yeah, he just has his own way of doing everything. But, so on the night of the thing with Smulyan, Willie comes up and he goes, yeah, man. He hugs me, puts his tongue in my ear, and he's been eating so much garlic, it's like a cartoon, man.
Really?
It's like my head is like vibrating like one of those, cartoons of like, I don't know, one of those Tweety Bird cartoons or something. My head was just going like this. I just went, Jesus, what a nut. And I met him through Israel's, because for a second, Chuck was really hot on him. But then they parted ways. It was kind of wild. We were up in Canada, and Chuck hired me to do something for Willie's book, to play along with Willie.
Willie
Thomas he was like, one of these jazz Hall of Famer guys, because he was like the talk of the town in New York at one point. He was in Slide Hampton's band with Freddie Hubbard. And he told me, he goes, yeah, he got into, and the next thing, he had an apartment for his, and the next thing he was like, he goes, yeah, Jay, I graduated to the all diet. He said, I get up in the morning and put the on my grapefruit. And then he said, finally he was in Central Park trying to heal somebody with a string and some feather, and he said, yeah, they mailed me home. So then the next thing he started this whole jazz education deal. And he went all over the place, and he married this lady who's like, quite an heiress to a big fortune. And so he was a real character. He was around here. It was really, really fun knowing him, but he had a lot of the stories too that were great.
I imagine he did, man.
Oh God, yeah, he was a character. And
did you run into Strozier at all? Did you ever?
No, but
never did either.
I think he's a wonderful player.
Yeah.
I know he could play flute really well, and his alto playing. There's that one record with Oliver Nelson arrangements.
Yeah, there's a really nice version of "I Remember Bird" that I heard of that song.
Right.
But,
yeah, I mean, he had a great sound. He was underrated. I hear that for a second he was, he played with Miles, and then he hung it up and started teaching.
Yeah, he taught not music. He taught I think it was either math or some kind of science or something in public school in Westchester.
Right. It's so.
Yeah.
So,
but I was thinking that I'd like to show your book again. I wanted to mention that Jay has written copiously, and this is the table of contents, Life and Jazz Stories by Jay Thomas.
Here's the book now. Yeah. And it's there's a Japanese translation now of this book. When he goes over to Japan, they're selling a lot of those books off the band.
It's in Nihongo. I have no idea what they kept in there. Like my friend was going, Jay, it's very bad. He's going. He goes, yes. We need. I said, Kohama, go ahead. Just fix whatever you need to fix. I don't care.
Yes,
But he goes. You're a very bad man. Just like okay. But I never heard BMF. I never heard that one until James Moody.
BMF, bad mother.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah, Jay, because I had him sign. I don't even have it now, but I somehow got that album, The Teachers, that I'm on,
right,
with James Moody.
James Moody, yes.
Yeah, and I said, here, he was just so gracious, and he signed it, but I loved his spirit. Yeah. I mean, to me, that he just kept practicing, moving along, and he was a beautiful human being. He ended up marrying a lady from Seattle who my dad knows really well.
That's his last wife?
Yes.
Linda, right, yeah.
Yeah, Linda and Thelma. They were two sisters, and they hung out. Thelma really had a thing for a while for what's the guy? The guy who played he plays tenor, kind of a blues style. Dad, what's the guy? He used to come in with the singer who could sound like Billie Holiday. What?
Not Bill Easley.
Oh Jesus! Here we go. I think I need another cup of coffee. I can't remember his goddamn name.
Eddie Jones was the singer, And
Houston
And-
person. Houston person.
Yeah, I heard Houston Person.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Houston person.
Yeah, well, Moody we called the Gentle Giant. That was
Yeah,
his nickname. And Houston's a
Red
little
Holloway. Red Holloway came with
Sonny Stitt. Oh,
instead.
he was kind of babysitter from Sonny Stitt.
But
Red.
they had to have a babysitter from.
Yeah, for Sonny Stitt. Red was watching, make sure that he stayed away from the sauce and kind of managing their road experience there.
You'll love this story. Tony Castellano, wonderful piano player. There were the twins, Tony and Dolph, in Miami. And Tony's monster, wonderful player. And he became very good friends with Stitt. And when Stitt would come to Miami, he'd always call Tony to do the gig and this and that. And Tony was an interesting guy. He was very deep into Yogananda and Paramahansa Yogananda and meditation, that type of thing. But at the same time, he'd get off the meditation wagon and he would go on binges and get high and hang out and these kind of things. So he's working with Stitt at this place called the Airliner in Miami. And every night on the gig, they're having a good time, drinking cognac, doing in the bathroom between sets, smoking joints here and there. And after the gig, they continue. They're up in Stitt's hotel room and they're laughing and talking and partying all night and doing the stuff. And so now I was told, I knew Stitt very briefly, not very well, but that when you hung out with him at a certain point, he would get righteous. Like he'd start to talk and then he'd turn the conversation to the spiritual and to God. And, the idea of it, we must believe in the Creator and the Creator is responsible for giving us these gifts. And he would say beautiful things, And Tony also was very deeply spiritual. And the two of them would get into these wonderful conversations about and if you added Ira to that, but Ira wouldn't be as messed up as them. But, they would share in these kind of conversations. Sometimes Joe DiOrio, when I grew up, Tony and Ira and Joe would always be talking about a higher power and these kind of spiritual matters. So anyway, they're in the hotel room, Stitt and Tony, and they're partaking. It's after the gig, and they got a bottle of cognac sitting there. They got a bag, they got some blow, and then they've got a bag of weed, and they're talking about life, and they're talking about the Creator and spiritual matters. And Tony says, Sonny, look at us. Here we are. I mean, how much did we drink? And I mean, how much blow did we do? Is this our 3rd gram tonight? And then here we are talking about the spiritual matters, talking about God and this and don't you feel that maybe with the Italian, don't you think maybe we're being a bit hypocritical with this kind of a contradiction, like here we are, we're talking about these things, but yet look at us. There's the booze and the glow and weed and all this stuff, and Sid says, Tony, God understands.
Never truer words said. I mean, I today I had such a great time at this rehearsal. This guy had this chart. Check out this chart. Maybe you can see the title of it. Okay. God damn it. Oh yeah. Where is the chart? The title of this chart? Oh yeah. Okay, you can't see it. It says MAGA Lardo getaway.
Lardo.
It's just like, it's so great. Oh my God. And talk about, perspective. This guy I've been playing with, He's a real egghead, genius kind of guy. He's 80 now, and he's a trombone player. And trombone players are a little weird anyway, right?
Don't you think so? Yes.
And he's like, he used to do copyist work for all the movie writers. So he's up here from LA, but he can really write. And what the hell was I going to say? Oh.
This cat who wrote this tune, Llahngaelhyn Getaway.
Yeah.
The copyists come from L.A.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought. Damn it.
Really right.
What's that?
He writes for a sextet, and they rehearse every Wednesday.
Yeah, we've been doing it for a while. Pete Gallio used to do it. You know Pete Gallio?
Oh, but I'm West Coast. I've hardly ever been there.
Yeah, Pete Gallio was a New York guy. He was like a contemporary. He used to play with Rick Margitza.
Oh, Rick studied with him.
And he was and Pete Gallio was a fantastic tenor player. And but it was fun today. We had a ball. It was just really fun. And I like the fact that, you know, this guy is up here now and writing all this stuff. We go over there and some of it's just right on the edge of doable. You know what I mean? It was like, oh shit, really, it's quite a workout for trumpet all afternoon, and so I was happy. You know, today it was good, and this guy is too nervous to do a gig. But he used to be road manager and played with Woody Herman's band and all these different things. But for a long time, he made his money as a copyist, you know, for Elmer Bernstein and all these kinds of movie writers. And he's up here now, and it's quite good. So this was fun today. I just had this in our conversation is really it's a red letter day for me.
Oh, me too. I'm having a ball.
Yeah.
While we're on growing up in Seattle, you know, a very dear friend of mine. You may have grown up with him. I'm not. You were around the same age. Was Larry Coryell.
I knew Larry. He is older than me, but he used to go to this coffee shop that I first started going to play, and he was like around here. He was played with this band called the Checkers, like an R&B band, and then he was in this band called the Dynamics, and they played all the time with the guy I idolized, Mark Doubleday, because Mark Doubleday really calmed Larry down. He said, Larry, you got to get the feel and stuff, and Larry was so smart at putting everything together. Like he was not shy. He'd just meet everybody, and I enjoyed hanging out with Larry. You know, I mean, but I remember I didn't like the guy I lived with played drums with him, and my old teacher and friend Mike Mandel played organ with him.
Oh, I meant to mention him to you. I knew Mike Mandel in Boston.
Mike Mandel is my buddy. I mean, he taught me immediately, and it was great because he couldn't write anything down, so he just and he just like played the shit for me and said, "Here." He goes, "Yeah, I remember the first day he's rocking it. He plays this thing and he goes, Donald Byrd, page 1." And it was just a simple up the horn. Oh, okay, Mike, wait a minute, and so we played, and I loved Mike Mandel. Well, he was playing with Larry, and I remember.
I hope he is. Is he still around?
I think Mike is still around. I talked to him just a couple years ago.
He settled in Boston. I mean, that's when the last place I saw him. I don't know what
Well,
happened.
I thought he was doing he used to do the Ellen DeGeneres show. Can you believe that?
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was the musical director for the Ellen
Oh, I didn't know
DeGeneres
that.
show.
He was the first
And
guy I knew that played synthesizer that actually had one. You know, when it was first coming out, he knew all about the synthesizer. He had
he
one.
was so funky on organ, and he could play. He had some kind of McCoyish things, and he could also do that left hand like fifths, pedaling and all the Wynton Kelly kind of and then take off, and take off. So Mike was my really he helped me probably more than just about anybody, and so he helped me a lot. And Steve Hawes and Mike Mandel played with Larry, and oh yeah, they
I
were
knew Larry and I had talked about Mike Mandel because we both knew him. He mentioned it.
they were. I remember the gig where Albert Stinson passed, because I was staying with the drummer. I've stayed at his.
For those of you who don't know, he got hit by a car or something, did he? Or
No, he had the unfortunate thing of rooming with Jim Pepper, and Jim Pepper was such a dope fiend, and Albert was like an OD waiting to happen, and
oh, I didn't realize.
and they got up in the morning to go to do the Burke Garrett show. Burt Garrett, he was like in Philadelphia, I think, and I remember being in the place when Steve Hawes called his wife and said, "Oh, there's a problem here. Albert is gone," and so they went on on the show and did their music minus the bass.
Oh,
That's
Ed
like
Trimble was another guy from, but I don't know if you knew him.
who?
Ed Trimble.
No, well, I know of the name.
Yeah, I'm just wondering because he was this guy in New York that I kind of knew, but he knew Larry, and there was Albert Stinson. Well, I think it's just wonderful, man, Jay, how you've been, you've continually managed to grow, and I tell everybody, go and check out Jay's music. In fact, Marvin can tell you the best way to go and find some of Jay's music.
Well, you never look for Jay Thomas. It's odd because there's the comedian.
Right.
You go to YouTube, it's nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
Lone Ranger and this guy. But if you go to Jay Thomas Jazz, he's all over it. If you go to
that's what a lot of people do that now.
Huh?
A lot of people, I see people doing that. They'll their name and then jazz and then.
Yeah, it's
So that's something you can do
that's right.
to get to the
And
right
Bandcamp.
spot.
JayThomasJazz.com.
Yeah, the Bandcamp. I mean, some of it I can listen to, and a lot of it I go, oh, wow. I don't listen to it, but it's okay. I'm having fun. The way I do it now, if it felt really good, I don't want to hear it back. If I think it really sucks, then I'll listen to it back. And usually I go, oh, that's not so bad. But if I think it's great and I listen to it back, I go, oh no. There I am again. It's like a friend of mine says, it's like dialing your own phone. You're going to get a busy signal every time.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's mixed. Sometimes in my case, I say, gee, that was a lot better than I thought it was. And other times, no, it wasn't. And I say, well, it was just, wasn't a good day or, but I mean, a lot of the time, I enjoy the people I got to play with so much. And I realize that I'll probably never play exactly like that again. I might play as well, hopefully, but it won't be like that because they're not here, and so many friends have passed that once I get into that and I start enjoying the memory, I say, yeah, I remember how it felt to play with that cat. Then I sound better to myself much of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, other times I say, boy, I wish I'd have met that challenge better because this guy left me. Left me in the dust. Uh, other times you say, well, hey, I didn't, totally make a fool of myself. Anyway, I think we have covered a lot of stuff.
Man, we're all over. We're all over the map. I mean,
Marriage, children, stuff like that. Do you have children? And
I've got one boy named Miles, and he's now 42 years old. What happened? Jeez.
I know this happened.
I mean, and
Sure.
he used to really school me too. Like I remember one time late to a gig, right? And I've got my suit on, and we're in the car, and Miles is with me, and I can't get the window. It's the hot day, and I cannot get the window down. And I got the suit on, and I'm trying to get to the gig, and the bridge goes, stop, and the bridge goes up, so the boats can go through. And I am just beside myself. And I said, why does this, how does this happen? And he goes, well, Dad, because that's the way you live your life, and I went, oh, that's right,
They love to tell us those things.
So you have an 11-year-old, right? Marvin told me. You have a daughter?
I missed that. What was that?
So you have a daughter?
I have a daughter who's around the age of your son. We don't tell a woman's age, but she's around that same generation there. And she's a wonderful singer-songwriter.
Wow.
And we did a tribute to Peggy Lee, a beautiful record with, it featured Bob Cranshaw and Jimmy Wormworth and Joe Cohn and Saul Rubin alternated on guitar. And young piano player, named, not young now, but Ehud Asheri, a New York piano player. And we did it's a beautiful record called Emily Mover, Emily, sings Peggy Lee. She's also written about a bunch of wonderful tunes of her own. She's a singer-songwriter and plays guitar and has written some beautiful, I'll send you some of that stuff.
Wow.
She's wonderful. And besides her, I have two younger children. I have one by Anya, who will be 18 next week.
Wow.
She is, she joined the circus if she could. She's an acrobat. She loves her trapeze.
Wow.
And, that's her passion, is doing things that I wouldn't dare do, but she likes to do that kind of stuff. And she's amazing that way. And my little one, I have an 11-year-old. She turned 11 last week. And they live down the street. They live about 4 or 5 blocks from me with their mother, who I'm not with anymore. I have my present wife. And I don't know what's in the background. Oh, that's all right. Yeah, and so I have my 11-year-old, and she's very more musical as well. She plays good piano, and she sings. In fact, she's going to be singing on this orchestra record I'm doing. So is my older daughter is also singing, but my little one is going to do "Where Is Love." She sings quite in tune, and she's been listening. I'm like you, Marvin. She's been listening to Billie Holiday since she was like 2. Well, since she was 1, really. So when she was 3, she'd say, "Daddy, Billie Holiday," and she'd do getting some fun out of life or something like that. And she just liked to do stuff like that. And same with my daughter Emily. She was, she says she remembers being. I would bring her to Europe when she was little, and we'd go over to Paris. I'd go on tour and I'd play the festivals, and I'd bring her with me. And she said one of her earliest memories is falling asleep at a little bench in a club right by the bandstand in Paris. And she said, I was playing with this trumpet player, I said, yeah, that was with Art Farmer. And so she remembers falling asleep as a 2-year-old to me playing with Art. That was kind of a funny memory she still remembers. So she's, her music is like you. It comes very naturally. The thing about you, you're a very natural musician, Jay. When I listen to you play, I've checked you out this week more than, I didn't really know you before, and I still have more to check out. I've just been busy this week, so I'm going to put some time aside to really listen to you more. But, the first thing that struck me was just, this is a cat that comes very naturally to him. He's not, academic about it, but it sounds like you know everything you need to know about it.
I don't know, but I've got a low bar now. I set the bar really low. My catchphrase is mostly audible.
That's good. Mostly audible.
Start at the right place, end at the right place, and mostly audible, and you're good. Yeah, that's what I've been telling kids, because they get so worked up, right? And I go, no matter what, like today I had so much fun, I got completely lost, but I'm like Hans's counting horse. The counting horse, I know by the people around me when I'm done. All of a sudden, there must have been like, all of a sudden I went, okay, I think I'm at the end here. And I swear to God, I sounded just fine. The changes were going all over Llahngaelhyn. So I figured, well, if the changes are going all over Llahngaelhyn, that's what I'm going to do too. And so,
Well, let's just before we go, let's talk a little bit. I know that you do a lot of mentoring in that area. You've got a lot of young people that kind of you have been under your aura over the years, and who do you teach, and where do you teach, and how do you teach?
well, I I went to hear that band. Oh God, what are they called? Artemis, female band run by Rini Rosnes,
Oh yeah.
and they're killing. And this I love this Nicole Glover. She's a
Yeah, I
tenor
gave
player.
her a lesson in Portland.
Well,
She lived in Portland.
so I come up and I come up to the bandstand and I go, oh, I really, enjoy your playing and I introduce myself and she looks at me, she points at me, she goes, I know you. And I said, what? And she goes, yeah, I played in your combo at Centrum Jazz Camp. That was run by John Clayton, and I do that every summer, and that's where I see Smolian.
Oh, I see. That's how you know.
Yeah, so I see a lot of those guys there, and and around here, there's a couple people that I know now, people that I, was friends with when they were starting out. Now they live in New York and they're doing pretty good.
And you have your band camp, your personal band camp with Van Beber.
Yeah, I have a band camp I'm doing now. We managed to get the domain name of Seattle Jazz Camp, and we do that in August for a week, and it's pretty good. Now it's great, and it's a hard bop camp, and we just do the music of Horace Silver, Art Blakey, and then all the people that were in their bands. So that means anybody I want, basically.
Right. Yeah. That's
Like everybody. So, and the thing we do is I try to get them to just, get the time to feel right, and I don't let them just completely, hurt themselves and flail, along. I go, let's figure out some stuff here, how to put something together, and that seems to be working okay,
That's great.
I just, and So that's quite. I just played with this kid today. His dad's a tech guy, and he's half Vietnamese and French, and this guy is so gifted, piano player. And I love that when you run into young people that really, he's all over Bud Powell stuff. Today I said, hey, because he knows the little send. I was mumbling about trying to get the Bud Powell thing and get exactly what the time is on the little after the melody of Tempest Fugit. And I said, what the hell is that? So he gives it to me today. He just sent it to my phone. I went, oh shit, but this guy is so gifted, just really gifted. And and he likes me, and we get along just fine. And I have a lot of young cats that I play with that are, I make them show me stuff. That's what I do now. That's the ones that I really like, the ones that are really going at it. I know this one kid, he's chasing after train like crazy, and he's just doing all kinds of stuff, and he comes over here and, I go, man, you're not leaving until you hit me to what you're doing there. So it's pretty fun.
That's great.
We're lucky, right?
That's it, man.
You and I are lucky, because music is never ending. It's uplifting. It's a way to pass time, and the time goes by, and I go, geez, what happened?
Yeah, I know.
I get engrossed in something, and now I don't have enough time to practice and everything else. I'm just doing it all the time, and I'm fine. I'm not shaking. I'm old, but I'm not shaking, and everything is functional, whatever. So I'm happy.
It's a blessing. I think. What are your spiritual feelings? Like, in other words, I know I'm not saying you go to church or this kind of thing, but how do you feel? I like to ask people that.
Well, I kind of like. There's a book I like a lot. It's called Buddhism Without Beliefs, because I think beliefs are overrated. And that's what the source of all our problems right now is people believing all kinds of weird things. And it's easy to practice something without having a big burden with a belief system. It's pretty good. I like, I heard this one elderly Japanese guy talking one time. He says, yeah, the only way out of this is to live in the present. That's the only way out of this dilemma. And I want, the life and death and everything else is just live in the present. He said, but then he's really compassionate. And he goes, but that's really hard to do with these bodies. Yeah. I want amen to that, So that's my thing is I was hanging out with this temple master in Japan who learned this a whole Dexter solo, and he played the whole thing one beat off.
Really?
Yeah, this guy, and he's asking, he's grilling me on what I believed, and I was just, it was all jujitsu with me. I was just like, yeah, neither confirm nor deny, and so I'm going along, and finally, he can make no headway with me, and he finally goes, nothing, and I said, yeah, I guess so, and he laughed. He thought that was the biggest, funny joke in the way.
What was the question? He said,
he said, what do you believe, basically, and then he started getting specific things, but I wouldn't say yes or no, and I was like,
outzend him.
I was taking him on a little trip. I was not giving him any no denials, no confirmations.
And you took it right on the Zen trip, right there.
Yeah, and finally he laughed his ass off and said, "Nothing?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so." That about sums it
The
up.
word they use for a white person in Japan, that's a great word. They would say it, oh man. They call someone who's not Japanese, it's a thing that they have.
Gaijin.
Gaiji, yeah.
Yeah, Gaijin.
Gaiji,
Or Hakojin. Hakojin is white person.
Gaijin, yeah. But Gaijin is, but
Yeah,
Gaijin
Gaijin. Gaijin is good. Yeah,
Gaijin guide is in.
I go, Yasashi Gaijin Daijobu desu ka? That means, is it okay? A easygoing foreigner is okay, and so I can now I buy stuff because I'm a complete nut with mouthpieces. This is it's like a sickness, but I don't have to change my sobriety birthday.
Guitar players call it, gas, right? You know
Oh
what gas is?
no.
Gear acquisition syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. I know. In fact, I have a mouthpiece coming that this guy refaced for me. It's a double ring auto link. I could just and I have this big serotonin uptake, and I'm just like, oh shit, it's gonna be here Friday. I hope it's really good. I'm gonna take it to my gig. Oh,
Well, my man Ted Klum was a student of mine at Berklee, and he's made a beautiful mouthpiece that's based on Charlie Parker's for alto.
Yes,
On that last one, the Yardbird,
yes.
and it's the middle, but I like the rubber version of it. Is what I've been
I
playing.
think they're great. My pal in Japan has got he's got the metal one, and it really helped him. I mean, I think they're good. I love the Ted Klum. I went over to Bob Ackerman's one time, and we went over to Ted Klum's.
Oh yeah, well actually, I had a mouthpiece. See, I'm not into gear acquisition. I played the same mouthpiece. I had a white Brillhart, Great Neck Original, that I played for 35 years.
Right on.
The medium hard Lavaz reeds, and I bought that from Bob Ackerman. And who took me to Bob Ackerman's was Ted Klum when Ted was a student of mine. And Ted took me over. In fact, when I taught at Berklee, Ted took every class that I taught. He said he heard me, and he asked them at the office, he said, whatever class he's teaching, I want to be in it. So in every single class, Ted was there. And then, anyway, he took me to Bob Ackerman, and Ackerman fixed us up. We both got the matching Great Neck Original Brillhart mouthpieces.
Right on.
And actually, last year, it started to do a little thing. I didn't realize that after you play them for a while, they can kind of warp in a certain way. They change.
Right.
And I guess something happened with the rails. Somebody was looking at it, and they said, yeah, you could have it refaced. But it was my only mouthpiece at the time. So, the only mouthpiece I was really playing, I had a Meyer that just in case something happened, I had one. But, I would try to, and so Ted said, why don't you try this Yardbird? And I've been playing that for the last year, and it's been really nice. I like it.
I think I want to try one, and there's a new one too that they've done an exact copy of Cannonball Adderley's mouthpiece. It's called the Kind of Blue, and I went, oh, wow. I've been thinking about it, but I go.
He was playing a Meyer, right?
I have a Meyer. I have a New York Meyer. It's fine. I have a New York Meyer 5.
There's a nice ligature that I've been playing too, made by a guy named Marc Jean. He makes it in Quebec, and it's really made a big difference. I really love the way this thing has worked on my horn, on my mouthpiece. And there's a thing with it. I've learned to do this. We don't bend the thing out of shape. And this is the signature.
Oh, wow.
And it's somehow I played it instead of my bonade. and I've used the same ligature for years too. I had one Brillhart ligature, one Bonad ligature.
Right.
Did that, and then the Spark Jean really has a nice thing to it. And I've been using also while we're doing product plugs, which I didn't mean to do, but I've been playing these plastic reeds, which I never was for, but I found one that really plays for me. It's called the Llahngaelhyn, and they have French cut, American cut, and the signature cut, and they come in half sizes. So it's like 2.25, 2.50, 2.75, and 3. So
What for like a Meyer 5? What would that be a good one for Llahngaelhyn, you think?
well, I would say I would use like a 2.50 signature cut. The equivalent of like a medium hard Lavaz,
Okay.
because that was Phil Woods' setup.
Yeah.
And he turned me on to that as when I was a kid and studying with him, and I played the equivalent of that.
Right.
If you want a 2.75 or 2.550, I will get you in touch with them.
That would be great. Yeah.
I can help you with that.
I gotta take my wife to the Korean restaurant. I promised her I'm gonna take her to a place called Kimchi. Over there, she's probably going, come on, take me to the kimchi.
Yeah, nice cabbage. But you get Korean barbecues out there too, which is wonderful.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is
Find a
true.
good one of those in New York. Anyway, it's been a real pleasure.
Bob,
Jay,
it's,
Marvin, Jesse, thank
great.
you.
I'm glad that this worked. Wow.
Oh, it sure did. Oh, I
Yeah,
have one
thank
final-
you.
one final-
Jesse, thank you.
You're very
Yeah,
welcome. You're very welcome.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
yeah.
And
Thank
I have
you.
only one final question. That wonderful hat, where'd you get it?
Oh, this guy, Bernie Oots, was like this store. I love that hat store, and then it went out of business, damn it.
Oh,
And I've got a bunch of hats now, because when my hair is no good anymore, so I went to the hat, but I don't care. Most of the time I don't care, but like, sometimes I wear the hat. It's just okay.
oh, it looks good. I mean, it's a very nice hat on you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I gave Marv one. He never wears it though.
You got one? Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
I still got there.
Yeah. So
well,
now,
thank you.
yeah, I gotta get now, but I'll let you know how that mouthpiece is when I get it on Friday.
Oh, yeah, let me know about that mouth.
I'll just like,
And-
yeah, yes,
And I will put you in touch with the cat at Llahngaelhyn,
good, yeah.
because you can, I'm sure, if you like them, your students will like them, and, we'll,
Oh, yeah, I want to try him. Anything that like that.
yeah, because he's got an alto, tenor, I don't know, you don't play soprano very much, right?
I like soprano. I play soprano. In fact, my dad's got one where I play with Gerald Wilson, and he wrote a piece, and it's a soprano feature all the way through it, and
Oh, wow.
and it turned out pretty good. It was mostly audible, that's for sure. That's like, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to tell you one thing about when we were talking about living the moment. I'll just leave you with this thought. We could put it in somewhere earlier or something. But when you were saying that how just the philosophy in this Buddhism without belief, what was it called? Buddhism
Yeah,
without
Buddhism without beliefs.
without beliefs. The idea, even though Ira Sullivan was a very devout Christian in his own
Right.
feeling, the thing that he said about jazz, when we talk about being in the moment, I remember when I was a teenager standing in front of the Rancher Lounge where Ira played steadily, and Ira was holding court after the gig with his entourage, and somebody said, they talked about jazz, and Ira said, well, the thing about what makes jazz so special is we try to live in the moment, and jazz is real life music. And the guy said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, it's you improvise, within a structure. And you have to be in the moment or it isn't going to work. He said, you know, for instance, you've got your day and you've got your day planned out. I'm going to do A, B, C, D, and this is my day. And then all of a sudden, your dog is sick. So you got to go to the vet. Or, you know, all of a sudden, somebody rear-ended you. And now you got to do something else. Or something good happened. All of a sudden, you didn't realize, oh my God, it's your 12th anniversary. And now you've got to adjust to that. So life is constantly adjusting to the moment.
Right.
And Jesus is our reminder that this is what life is.
Right. Yeah, Ira, yeah, he was great. Both him and that was Red was, they were both Christians and they were talking about how they, you know, Red kind of had some kind of blinding light kind of thing, and Ira said, "Yeah, I just read the Bible, it just made a lot of sense," or something like that. You know, just like, oh man.
Anyway, it's been wonderful.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you.
More. And I think we should make a record when you come to New York next.
I'm going to be there in March, and I would love to play with you. I will come and see you for sure. And maybe I'll set something up. I have several people. I want to see my friend. He's got a studio, and he plays with a guy, Gary Versace. He plays with them a lot.
Oh yeah, we're from Portland. I remember him. Yeah.
Yeah, Gary Versace lives in New York now, and he's a great organ player. He plays. Last time I saw Maria's band, he played with her, and we used to play together. So.
Well, I only play at home because I don't leave the house.
Well, I'll come to your house, of course.
But I have a nice Kawai upright piano, and you know we can play here. So you know we come here, and I've got a rhythm section. We can get a rhythm section. You know.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Before we go, I would like to remind everybody who's watching us, that we do appreciate if you give us a like and subscribe. Doesn't cost anything to subscribe, and it helps us more than you might realize.
We'll put it on our Facebooks. Get people to do it. And in your music, there, Bob.
What's that?
I've got a lot of spolium.
Oh.
I've got a lot of my own stuff that I'm weeding through because I'm trying to actually.
I know what you mean.
That's me too. That's me exactly.
Okay.
Anyway, so I'm going to take my wife to Kimchi, and I'm going to sign off.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I love you guys.
Bon appetit, whatever you eat.
Okay. See you later.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.